I sat alone at the table, the candle on my birthday cake flickering in an empty room. I had saved a seat for her, my only daughter, the one I raised on broken dreams and bedtime prayers. But instead of a visit, I got a message, "Can't make it, Mama." Something bigger came up. Hours later, what I saw on her Instagram made my hands tremble so badly I dropped my teacup. You'd think that at 71, I'd be used to being alone. But birthdays carry a different kind of silence. Not the peaceful kind, the kind that echoes. That's the thing no one tells you when you get older. The quieter it gets, the louder your memories become. I spent that morning putting on my soft lavender dress, the one Margaret once said brought out the last of my good color. I wore the pearl earrings my late husband Samuel gave me on our 40th anniversary. And I even sprayed the lilac perfume that only gets dusted off for special days. I baked the cake myself. Buttercream frosting, 3 layers of moist chocolate sponge. I knew better than to hope anyone would bring one. The dining table was set with the good china, the one boxed up most of the year. I made the pot roast I know Camila loves. Roasted carrots. Her favorite jalapeno cornbread. She hadn't answered my calls all week, but I kept brushing it off. She was busy, I told myself. The kids, the business trips, her husband always pulling her into one event or another. I figured she'd call that morning. Or even better, surprise me at the door with that laugh of hers and the smell of sandalwood hugging her coat. But the door never opened. At 7:03 p.m., my phone buzzed. It was a text from Camila. "Can't make it today, Mama. Something bigger came up. I'll call tomorrow. Love you." Something bigger. I read those words over and over. Bigger than your mother's 71st birthday? I felt heat rush to my face. My knees buckled, but I didn't let myself sit down yet. Not before blowing out the candle. One candle. Just one. I didn't even have the heart to stick all 71 inches. I leaned over and whispered, "Happy birthday, Alma," and blew. But the candle kept flickering. I made myself sit. I wasn't going to cry. I'd spent too many decades being the strong one. The dependable one. The giver. Crying didn't suit women like me. Still, the tears came, not the loud kind. Just quiet, steady ones that slid down my cheeks and dripped into my lap. My house felt too big. My body felt too small. I glanced toward the hallway, where pictures lined the wall. Camila's high school graduation. Me in a second-hand dress, clutching her tight. Her wedding day. I'd mortgaged half my pension to help with that ceremony. The flowers. The dress. The live band she insisted on. And just last year, the housewarming gift. $50,000 in savings, because she and Marcus needed a fresh start. And now I wasn't even worth a phone call. I decided to clean up. I wrapped the untouched cake in foil. I packed the roast into containers. I rinsed my good china, my hands trembling as I scrubbed the plates. Then I made the mistake of sitting back down and opening my phone again. I don't know what made me do it. Maybe some twisted need to see if she really was busy. And there it was. An Instagram story. A rooftop dinner. Lights strung across the skyline. A champagne toast. Her voice laughing in the background. I tapped the video, watching it again and again. My thumb hovered over the screen. I froze it at the moment she raised her glass and said, "To my new life. Bigger things are coming." No mention of me. No sorry, Mom. Just smiles and clinking glasses. That's when my hands began to tremble so badly. The phone slipped and hit the tile. I sat frozen. That video. It wasn't just dinner. It was a celebration. Without me. I didn't sleep that night. I sat by the window, the street lamp casting long shadows over the floor. The house creaked and settled, the way old bones do. And my mind wandered, back to the first time Camila got sick and I stayed up 3 nights feeding her soup from a spoon. Back to the ballet lessons I worked overtime for. Back to the night her father passed, and how I held her as she sobbed into my nightgown. I gave her everything I had. And when she grew up, she gave me distance. I'm not bitter. No, bitterness is sharp and loud. What I felt was hollow. Like a room that used to hold music but only echoes now. In the morning, I made myself tea. I needed to get out of the house. So I called Beatrice, my neighbor and oldest friend. When she answered, I didn't even say hello. I just whispered, she missed my birthday. Beatrice was silent for a long second. Then gently, Alma, come over. I'll make muffins. It's funny how friends know what to say without saying much at all. At Beatrice's kitchen table, I finally let myself say it. I feel like I don't matter anymore. Like I outlived my usefulness. Beatrice, who never sugarcoats anything, leaned forward. You've given them everything. But have you ever asked what you deserve in return? I blinked. Mothers don't do that. We give. That's what we're supposed to do. No, she said, her voice firm. That's what they want you to believe. But Alma, being a mother doesn't mean being a doormat. That word hit me like a slap. Doormat. Had I let myself become one? We sat in silence until Beatrice reached into a drawer and pulled out a folder. This is the lawyer I used when my son tried to put my name on his business loan without asking. Talk to him. Just ask what your options are. I stared at the folder like it was poison. And yet my hands reached for it. That night, I lay in bed with the folder on my lap. I thought about the bank account I'd helped open for Camila when she first got married. I thought about the house title I co-signed, never even reading the fine print. I thought about every check, every transfer, every gift. And I realized something horrifying. I had no idea what I truly owned anymore. Maybe I didn't own anything at all. I didn't sleep that night. The folder from Beatrice sat like a weight on my chest, unopened on the blanket beside me. I watched the hands of the clock crawl past midnight. Then 1, then 2. Each tick was a reminder of how much time I had given to others. How many years had I spent putting everyone else's needs before mine? It was almost 6 a.m. when I finally peeled back the flap and pulled the contents into my lap. Inside were 2 crisp business cards, a pamphlet about elder rights and asset protection, and a sticky note that said, "His name is Gregory R. Vance. Kind. Direct. Call him Gregory." The name sounded safe. Like someone who still respected women with gray hair and shaking hands. I called before I could talk myself out of it. His receptionist answered, chipper and professional. "He can see you this afternoon, Mrs. Moreno. Is 3 o'clock too early?" I hesitated. Then said, 3 is fine. I'll bring everything I have. I wore my gray wool coat and carried an old tote bag filled with every important document I could find. Bank papers, house deeds, printed emails, and even birthday cards from Camila, just in case sentiments somehow mattered in court. Gregory's office was neat and warm. Nothing fancy. A small fern sat on the windowsill, and behind the desk sat a middle-aged man with kind eyes and a soft voice. He stood when I entered. "Mrs. Moreno, welcome. You're not alone here." Those 5 words. I didn't expect them to shake me. But they did. I sat down and opened the tote bag. For the next hour, he quietly flipped through my documents, asking soft questions. I told him everything. How Camila and Marcus had insisted I sign the co-ownership papers on their house, just for the bank. How I'd added Camila as a joint account holder in case of emergency. How I'd given them the down payment. The cars. The Christmas trips. When I finished, I sat back and looked at him, ashamed. "I didn't ask for anything in return," I whispered. "I just wanted to be part of their lives." Gregory folded his hands. "And now, I said slowly, "I want to know what's mine." He nodded, then gently tapped one of the documents. "According to this, You're not on the title anymore. They filed a quitclaim deed 2 years ago. Did you sign a second set of papers? My blood ran cold. I signed once. With a notary, in their kitchen. He looked at me carefully. That first signing may have removed you, not added you. And the other documents? Some of these accounts you co-signed. The beneficiary isn't even you anymore. It's Marcus. My hands clenched in my lap. They'd used me. I left that office with a new folder. This one thicker, heavier, stamped with words I never thought I'd associate with my own family. Fraud. Power of attorney. Elder financial abuse. Gregory gave me instructions. Quiet, measured ones. Don't confront them yet. We need to gather more. I'll request the property filings. We'll get the full account ledgers. But in the meantime, stop giving. Stop giving. It was the first time in my life someone told me that. And I realized I didn't know how to. The next few weeks were like peeling off a mask I didn't know I was wearing. I went through my house, my drawers, my emails. I found receipts I never approved. Payments made from our joint account to Marcus's startup. I found a car registration with my name on a vehicle I'd never driven. I found proof Camila had used my signature digitally. Each discovery was a wound. Not just because of the lies, but because I had trusted her more than I trusted myself. Every holiday. Every babysitting night. Every emergency loan. All those acts I'd done in the name of love, they had become weapons used against me. It was a Wednesday morning when I finally snapped. Camila called me for the first time since my birthday. Her voice was cheery, as if we hadn't gone silent for nearly 3 weeks. Hey, Mama. Just checking in. Things have been crazy. Marcus had a big meeting, and we had this spontaneous trip to Cabo. I wanted to tell you, we're thinking of selling the house and moving closer to the coast. Isn't that exciting? I held the phone tightly. Selling the house? Yeah, she chirped. With the market so high, Marcus thinks we can make a killing. My mouth went dry. Camila, do I still own part of the house? Silence. Then, carefully, Mama, we talked about this. You signed those forms, remember? It's better for tax reasons if Marcus handles it. You trust us, right? That word. Trust. I looked out the window at my backyard. The lemon tree Samuel and I had planted when we first moved in. Its leaves were browning, untended. Forgotten. No, Camila, I said quietly. I don't think I do. She was stunned. Excuse me. I'm hiring a lawyer. He's going through everything. And I want a full accounting of what you've done with my money. Her voice changed. Sharp. Offended. Are you seriously accusing your own daughter of stealing from you? I'm not accusing, I said, my voice trembling but firm. I'm confirming. She hung up. Just like that. That night, I cried again, but this time, it wasn't from pain. It was relief. I'd finally drawn a line in the sand. The next day, Gregory called me with more information. The quitclaim deed Camila used? Forged. My signature didn't match. There were inconsistencies in how it was filed. The bank accounts? Large sums transferred to offshore business accounts connected to Marcus's company. All without my consent. Gregory said calmly, This could go criminal, Alma. Are you prepared for that? I stared at my trembling hands. Then I whispered, Yes. And something inside me shifted. I began walking again. Around the block, then to the small park Samuel used to love. I wore lipstick again. I opened the piano lid and played, even if my fingers were stiff. I cooked, for me, not for guests. Every day, I said it out loud like a prayer. I gave. And they took. But I am not empty. I didn't know that healing could come with such rage. I thought that at 71, I had lived through all the emotions a woman could feel. Grief, love, devotion, disappointment. But nothing prepared me for the kind of righteous fury that took over once Gregory laid out every detail in black and white. What they had done wasn't just betrayal. It was erasure. They had slowly and quietly taken my name off everything that mattered. The house, the accounts, even the medical power of attorney. My own daughter had it changed last year without telling me. If I had been in a coma, Marcus would have been the one deciding whether I lived or died. And I would have had no say. None. I looked in the mirror one morning. Same white curls, same creased eyes. But something was different. The softness in my gaze was gone. I saw a woman who was no longer willing to be kind at her own expense. Gregory was building the case piece by piece. We filed a temporary freeze on the joint account. He helped me draft a formal letter demanding access to every record related to the trust fund Camila said never made enough to bother tracking. He also recommended a private investigator named Lena. A quiet woman in her 40s with keen eyes and a soft voice. Lena handled the facts like a surgeon. Sharp, efficient, no wasted motion. Within 2 weeks, she'd sent us photos. Camila at a bank I didn't recognize, walking out with a stack of envelopes. Marcus in a meeting with a man recently arrested for white-collar crime. A deed transfer that had moved not just the house title, but the insurance policy and equity into a shell LLC Marcus owned. Mrs. Moreno, Lena said gently during our second meeting, they didn't just remove your name. They used your credit history to leverage a business loan. And now your credit score is plummeting. My hands trembled as I stared at the report. There were purchases listed I couldn't even pronounce. $7,200 to a luxury watch dealer in Dubai? But I never. You didn't. That's why we need to act fast. I knew what was coming next. Court. Lawyers. Headlines maybe. And the possibility of losing my daughter forever. But here's the thing. Camila had already made that choice. She'd abandoned me the moment she decided I was more useful as a financial tool than a mother. The woman who used to wrap her arms around me and whisper, "You're my best friend, Mama," no longer existed. And I needed to mourn her properly. So I did. I lit a candle one night, just like the one on my birthday cake, and I whispered goodbye. Goodbye to the illusion. Goodbye to the guilt. Goodbye to the woman I once raised who had now become a stranger. Gregory filed a civil case. It included financial abuse, fraudulent signatures, elder exploitation, and illegal asset transfer. He'd also contacted the police about the forged documents. They opened a quiet investigation while we gathered more. But the moment that really shifted everything, the moment the power turned in my favor, came during mediation. Camila showed up wearing a sleek blazer and tight smile. She looked rehearsed. Her lawyer opened with charm and condescension, saying, "We believe this is a simple misunderstanding rooted in love and poor communication." I didn't speak. Not yet. Gregory laid out the bank records. The deed transfer. The forged signature overlays. Then came Lena's photographs and timeline. Camila's face changed. Still she tried. "Mama, you said you wanted us to have the house. You said you trusted us." I looked her dead in the eyes. "And you used that trust like a crowbar." Her face paled. "You asked for my hand," I continued softly, "and I gave you my whole arm. And then you took the rest." Her lips quivered. I saw something behind her eyes. Maybe fear, maybe shame, but it was too late. I turned to her lawyer. "I'm reclaiming everything that is mine. Every dollar. Every title. And when this is over, I'm also changing my will." That night, I walked into my house. And something was different. Lighter. As if my walls knew I had finally stood up for myself. I made tea and sat by the window. The lemon tree was blooming again. Funny, how nature doesn't need permission to start over. I reached for my old journal and began to write. Not about pain, but about power. For the first time in years, I wasn't writing memories. I was writing a future. It took Camila 3 weeks to respond after mediation. Not a phone call. Not a visit. A letter, typed, not handwritten, and signed with just her first name. It came in a cream envelope with my address scribbled in Marcus's handwriting. Inside, 3 pages. Mama, I didn't mean to hurt you. I truly believed I was doing what was best for our family. Marcus had these plans and needed quick access to funds. You always said we were a team. I thought you trusted me. But now, seeing it all laid out in court like that, I guess I understand why you're angry. I don't think I'm a bad person, but maybe I made some selfish choices. I hope one day you can forgive me. I didn't know how much I was taking from you, emotionally or financially. I was scared to fail. I wanted our life to look perfect. Maybe that's what got the best of me. She signed it. Camila. No, love you, Mama. No apology for forging documents. No ownership of Marcus's manipulation. Just soft phrases, excuses wrapped in polite words. I folded the letter carefully and slid it into a drawer with the rest of the evidence. It wasn't an apology. It was a defense. The court proceedings moved forward, but not publicly. Gregory had suggested we keep it out of the news for now, to protect both my privacy and my case. Lena continued tracking Marcus's activity. His company had gone silent. No new filings. No payroll reports. Just hush. I began to realize why he had latched onto me so early on. Marcus wasn't just opportunistic. He was desperate. And Camila, my sweet, once determined girl, had hitched her wagon to him long ago and didn't know how to let go. But it wasn't my job to rescue her anymore. That job had cost me too much already. One evening, I sat with Beatrice on her back porch. The sun was going down, and her old Labrador was snoring at our feet. I feel like a stranger in my own story, I said softly. Beatrice passed me a glass of lemonade. Then rewrite the ending. I just don't know where to begin. You already did, she said. You said no. You fought back. That's more than most people ever do. We sat in silence for a while, and then I whispered, "What if I die before I win?" Beatrice looked at me, eyes fierce. Then you die fighting. And that's not a bad way to go. I didn't expect what happened next. 2 weeks later, Gregory called me at 7:30 a.m. Alma, he said, voice buzzing. Marcus just filed for personal bankruptcy. His accounts are under review. And a court date has been set for the fraud charges. I clutched the phone. So, it's happening? It's happening. I hung up and sat very still. All those years I spent quiet, giving, forgiving. Now the consequences were arriving. Not with rage, but with paperwork. A few days later, another letter arrived. This one wasn't from Camila. It was from Marcus's attorney. A settlement offer. They wanted to return the house title, reimburse half of the funds, and avoid any public record of the fraud if I agreed to drop the case. I stared at the paper for a long time. It was more than I expected. But not everything I was owed. I took the offer to Gregory. He reviewed it in silence, then glanced up. It's a partial victory. But I think we can do better. I thought about it long and hard. And finally I said, I don't want revenge. I want clarity. I want proof, not just that I was right, but that I can still protect myself. That weekend, I went to the garden center and bought new soil and lemon fertilizer. I rolled up my sleeves and dug deep into the roots of that old tree Samuel and I had planted. Its branches were thin, but the roots were still strong. I planted marigolds around the base. A symbol of resilience. When I was done, I wiped my hands on my apron and whispered, "This house is mine." Not just legally. Spiritually. A week later, we declined the offer and filed for full restitution. The court date was set for late summer. Gregory looked at me during our last prep meeting and said, "Whatever happens next, you've already won the most important battle." I nodded. Because I wasn't afraid anymore. Not of losing them. Not of being alone. Not of starting over. The morning of the court date, I woke before sunrise. The sky outside my bedroom window was a soft steel gray, the kind that blankets everything in silence. A kind of peace. I got dressed slowly. Navy blue slacks, a cream blouse, and my pearl earrings. Not the big statement kind. Just small round pearls that sat softly on my earlobes. Samuel had bought them for me when Camila turned 10. I used to wear them for her dance recitals. Now, I was wearing them to testify against her husband. Life has a strange symmetry. Gregory met me outside the courthouse. His hair was neatly combed, his briefcase tight in his grip. He offered me his arm, and we walked up those courthouse steps like we were climbing out of every silent betrayal I'd buried in my bones. Inside, everything smelled like old paper and floor wax. The courtroom was cold. The walls were beige. The benches creaked. But none of that mattered, because I had decided something days before. I would not shrink. Not for the judge. Not for the lawyers. And certainly not for Camila and Marcus. They sat on the other side of the aisle. Camila wore all black, her expression tight. Marcus wouldn't even look at me. When our eyes met briefly, she looked small. Not the towering, powerful woman I used to imagine she'd become. Just a daughter who had let her mother be used. Gregory started the presentation of evidence. His tone was calm, deliberate. A scalpel, not a hammer. He showed the quitclaim deed with the forged signature. The offshore accounts. The credit abuse. He laid out the facts like puzzle pieces, and each one formed a clearer picture. And then, it was my turn. The bailiff swore me in. My palms were sweaty, but my heart was steady. I sat down and looked directly at the judge. And for the first time I spoke my full truth. I raised my daughter alone after my husband passed. I began. I worked as a school librarian for nearly 30 years. I saved. I pinched every penny so I could help her when she grew up. I glanced at Camila, but she looked away. I gave them money for their first home. I helped pay for their wedding. Their car. When they asked me to sign some documents to make things easier with the bank, I trusted them. I paused. I did not expect that trust to become a weapon. I could feel the courtroom listening, leaning in. I never asked to be rich. I only ever asked to be respected. But over time, I noticed things. Calls ignored, visits missed, birthdays forgotten. And still I gave. Because that's what mothers do. We love beyond reason. Another pause. But there comes a moment when love without respect becomes sacrifice. And sacrifice, without acknowledgement, becomes invisible. And I will not be invisible anymore. The room was silent. The judge nodded gently. Gregory leaned back, calm but proud. Camila's face was wet. She was crying. But I didn't let that sway me. Because tears are not repair. They are reaction. And I had learned the difference the hard way. After my testimony, we took a short recess. I walked to the hallway, found a wooden bench by the window, and sat in the morning light. Lena, the investigator, joined me with a soft smile. You were powerful up there, Alma. I smiled. I didn't feel powerful. You were. I looked out the window at the parking lot below. People coming and going, unaware of the stories unfolding just a few floors above them. Then I said something I didn't know I was feeling until I heard it. I don't hate her. I just don't recognize her anymore. When the session resumed, Marcus took the stand. He tried his best to play it cool, talked about financial risk, stressed investments, how everything was in motion, and our intention was never harm. But the documents didn't lie. The forged signatures. The unapproved transfers. The email threads where he bragged to a colleague about getting the old lady to co-sign. That one made the judge's brow furrow. By the end, Marcus looked less like a businessman and more like a schoolboy caught stealing lunch money. Camila never spoke. Not in testimony. Not to me. She simply sat with her hands folded in her lap like a girl waiting for the storm to pass. When the judge announced the verdict, my hands tightened on the bench. Full restitution. Title restored. Damages awarded. Bank accounts seized and reassigned. A formal statement of financial exploitation added to Marcus's record. And an official warning to Camila for willful neglect and complicit behavior in elder financial abuse. The gavel came down. Case closed. I didn't cry. Not in the courtroom. Not in the car. Not even that night when I took off my earrings and placed them gently in the velvet box. But I did exhale. A long, deep breath that seemed to come from the very center of my chest. As if the part of me that had been holding everything in, every hurt, every silence, every betrayal, finally let go. The next morning, I did something strange. I opened the cedar trunk at the foot of my bed and pulled out all the old photo albums. I flipped through pages of Camila's baby pictures. Her fourth grade science fair. Her prom night. Her college graduation. I let the memories wash over me, not to hurt, but to honor what was. And then I slid one small photo out from behind the plastic. A picture of us when she was 6, me kneeling beside her, birthday candles lit, her smile wide. I placed that photo on my mantle. Not as a reminder of pain, but as proof that I once loved without regret. And that, no matter how the story twisted, I had done right by my heart. The days after the court ruling passed quietly. No fireworks, no celebration. Just peace. That's the funny thing about winning. You imagine it will feel like triumph, like some great exhale with the world watching. But in truth, it's a quieter thing. It feels like still water after a storm. No more phone calls asking for just a little help. No more sleepless nights wondering what I'd signed. No more guilt trying to buy love with silence. Just me. And my home. And the life I still had left. One morning, I walked into the bank alone. I sat with a young woman named Ruth who helped me open new accounts under only my name. She smiled as I placed a trembling finger on the digital signature pad. "You're all set, Ms. Moreno." I smiled. "Thank you," I whispered. "It's been a long time since I've had something that was just mine." I began making small changes around the house. The guest room that once held boxes of Camila's old clothes and Marcus's golf trophies? I emptied it out. Donated what was usable. Tossed what wasn't. I painted the walls pale yellow. Planted fresh lavender outside the window. Bought a second-hand easel and canvas set from a neighbor's garage sale and began painting again. Not for anyone. Not for a hobby. Just to see what would come out. I let the silence be my companion. For the first time in my life, it wasn't loneliness. It was solitude. And there's a difference. Beatrice came by one afternoon with lemon tarts and a new scarf she'd knitted me. "You look taller," she teased. I laughed. "Maybe I'm finally standing up straight." She patted my hand. "You've done what so many women never dare to. Protect yourself from your own family." I stared at my kitchen. The same curtains. The same dishes. But they all felt new. "I still miss her," I said softly. Beatrice didn't flinch. "I know," she said. "That's how you know you loved well." Camila never called after the ruling. No apology. No confrontation. Not even an angry message. She simply disappeared from my life like morning fog burning off the lawn. I heard through a mutual friend that she and Marcus had moved to another city. Smaller place. Fewer expenses. I didn't feel bitter. I didn't feel smug. I just felt free. Weeks later, a small letter arrived in my mailbox. No return address. No signature. Just a single page. "You were right. I was wrong. I don't expect forgiveness. But I hope you find peace. I'll always be your daughter, even if I forgot how to be. I folded it gently and placed it inside my journal. It didn't change the past, but it softened the edge of it. That Sunday, I stood on my front porch, a cup of tea warming my palms, the wind playing with the corner of the welcome mat. And I said something out loud, to no one and to everyone. I am not someone's burden. I am not someone's convenience. I am not someone's invisible savings account. I am Alma Moreno. And I'm just getting started. That summer I took a trip. Not to run away. Not to distract myself. But to remember the girl I used to be. Before the marriage. Before motherhood. Before I gave everything I had to people who forgot what it cost me. I boarded a train north to a quiet little town by the sea. I booked a modest room at a bed and breakfast run by an older couple named Andres and Lydia. Their garden was overgrown, their dog half-blind, and their smiles full of the kind of kindness you can't fake. Every morning, I sat on the wooden porch and painted. The sea. The sky. The shape of clouds that reminded me of Samuel's laughter. One morning, Lydia brought me a cup of coffee and said, "You don't talk much about your family." I smiled softly. Some stories take time to grieve before they can be told. She just nodded and placed a hand over mine. Then I hope, when you're ready, you tell yourself first. Sometimes we forget we're part of our own story too. That night, I lay in bed and thought about every version of myself I had been. The young mother who worked double shifts and skipped meals so Camila could have dance lessons. The widow who kept smiling for everyone else while her heart cracked every night under the bedsheets. The grandmother who showed up for every birthday, every recital, every emergency, and expected nothing in return. The woman who was finally, learning that expecting nothing is not the same as deserving nothing. And now, this version of me who knew her rights. Who protected her name. Who didn't flinch when called selfish for wanting peace. This version who could say without shame, I was betrayed. But I survived. And I rebuilt. When I returned home, my porch was dappled with falling leaves. The lemon tree was heavy with fruit. The air was turning sharp with the promise of fall. I baked a lemon pie. Sat with a book. Lit a candle in the kitchen just because it smelled like comfort. And I thought about all the other women like me. The quiet ones. The givers. The invisible anchors of families who would crumble without them, and yet go unthanked, unseen, unprotected. So I wrote something. Not for Camila. Not for the courts. For them. A letter. A manifesto, maybe. Asterisk to the women who are told to keep giving, to the mothers who signed everything and questioned nothing, to the grandmothers who hear, it's just easier this way, and smile through the sting, to the caretakers who gave up careers, comfort, and years of their lives. You are not crazy. You are not bitter. You are not wrong for wanting boundaries. Asterisk, you are not ungrateful for asking to be seen. You are allowed to say no. You are allowed to take back your name. You are allowed to begin again. Asterisk, I printed copies and dropped a few at the community center bulletin board. Didn't sign my name. Didn't need to. Some stories don't need credit. They just need to reach. One Sunday, as I watered the marigolds near the lemon tree, a young woman passed by with her daughter and stopped to admire the blossoms. These are beautiful, she said. My abuela used to plant the same kind. I smiled and said, they're strong little things. Come back every year, even after frost. She nodded. Like abuelas. She didn't know my story. Didn't need to. But in that moment, I realized something. I wasn't defined by what I'd lost. Or by who failed me. Or even by what I'd reclaimed. I was defined by this, that I was still standing. Still loving. Still growing. And still choosing to live. So if you ever find yourself alone on your birthday, if someone you loved forgets your worth, if you've given and wake up wondering what's left of you, let me tell you something, from one heart to another. You are not too late. You are not too old. And you are not done yet. My name is Alma Moreno. I'm 71 years old. And I remember who I am now.